Consistent self-improvement, everybody. You are now listening to American gypC podcast. I am your host, Classic, and I am here with my co-host,
gypC. And today we have Chris Lalomia. He is an entrepreneur, author, and host of the Small Business Safari podcast. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Welcome.
Okay. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So to get started, tell us a little bit about, where you're from, where you are, and how you kind of got into what you do.
Yeah, so make the short story long. No, I won't make it that far, but I'm originally from Michigan, a small town outside of Detroit. Found my way to the South after getting my engineering degree, and originally located in Charlotte, North Carolina, but stayed in the South and moved to Atlanta. Did the whole corporate America gig, got drunk and intoxicated with all that big money and that what seemed like fame and fortune and success. And then I realized that I needed to go out and do my own thing and started my own business. So I started the Trusted Toolbox in 2008. Yep, right before the recession absolutely took us down. And then I made it through that. And then here comes that thing they called the pandemic. And I made it through that. And I'm still standing. So after 14 years, you could say I'm an overnight success.
How long have you been in Atlanta?
I've been in Atlanta since 2001.
Okay, so we were in Atlanta at the same time that you were there. For our listeners.
Yeah. So there you go. So if you know anything about Atlanta, you know that you have to really embrace traffic, or at least know that it's going to be part of your life.
Yeah, and it is a different level of traffic, in different places. Since we left, our listeners, you've probably heard it before, but since we left Atlanta traffic, we went up to taste that DMV traffic where people have bumpers. They have bumper guards. Yeah. And, it's something that we saw there. And then when we moved to California, we realized people don't have bumper guards here. They need them, but they don't have them here. So we learned that, okay, the bumper guard thing must have something to do with either the snow or just the people in the DMV can't drive.
Exactly. I'm thinking about maybe I should put some bumper guards on my truck here, and I can do a little bump drafting, get through traffic quicker. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what was it like starting a business during the recession?
So I didn't know it was going to be like that. So I started a handyman business. I didn't start a remodeling business. Today we're a handyman and remodeling business, but I felt like I was smarter than everybody else. And so, well, it's recession resistant. But as you remember, if you ever went through it, recession resistance, one thing. So I was able to survive, but it was hard. And so it made me really slow down. I had these huge projections I was going to do and didn't hit any of them. And basically it backed me up, I guess, about a couple of years away from, what I thought I'd be doing in 3 years. Really, it took me about 4 or 5 to get there. It was definitely interesting. Decision making was really hard. A lot of people were just sitting there going, am I going to have a job? And I don't know if I can afford to do this. Crazy. So, but we made it through.
So what kind of job was it again?
So we have a handyman company. So we do all the things around your home, like drywall repair and fixing the wood rot, or hanging doors and windows, fixing decks, doing that small stuff, quote unquote. And today we do everything from bath and kitchen remodeling to rebuilding decks, down to still the handyman. I've got 15 handymen now that work for me, working around Metro Atlanta. And then I've got 5 guys running the remodeling projects for us. So we can do stuff of scale now, but in the beginning I thought, well, I'm small enough. You're going to still you got to do this work, right? And the answer was not really. They just didn't know if they were going to have a job. And I'm talking about people like HP executives and people from UPS not sure they're going to have a job anymore. People from IBM and banks. They sat there on their money for a while. I'm like, well, let's go do this job. And it started to come back, but in the beginning it was rough.
I'm sure it was different during the pandemic. I'm sure business, did it slow down or accelerate?
So it slowed down and then it accelerated with a capital A.
For the pandemic?
Yeah, during the pandemic. Now that's all fresh in everybody's mind.
Yeah, my dad is a carpenter in Mississippi, and he's basically an independent carpenter. He doesn't quite do, upscale remodeling or anything, but basically, kind of a handy repair. He can build a house from the ground up. As far as knowledge wise, it's all there. But his work has basically went up a lot since the pandemic. And he's saying it more of kind of people have had a chance to sit at home and see a lot of the things that they need to upgrade or, you know, want to upgrade, have time to upgrade to a certain degree. It wasn't necessarily that. I could see, you know, with the recession is one thing when, you know, money wise, or I guess then money wise was a different thing than you have right now with the pandemic. It's more of, I just can't go, or some people are even working online. But when it comes down to, did it change? Yeah, I'm sure it was.
It's a very interesting when you look back on it. So, you know, it was for me on March 9th, I had a guy in 2020 say, you know, Chris, I think this is going to impact your business. I think it's going to shut us down. I'm like, nah, man, you're crazy. Man, you're like Chicken Little. Slow it down, big boy. It ain't going to be like that. And literally a week later, I'm like, oh, I'm shutting it down. I didn't shut it down. I really pared it back by laying people off right away. Not sure how long it was going to take. When you're staring at it March 15th here in Atlanta, Georgia, it was tough to handle. We kept 12 guys busy, but basically my remodeling projects slowed to a trickle because nobody wanted you in their house at the time. And if you remember, I mean, it was scary times. You didn't know what we were up against, so they didn't want you in your house. And we were able to work around the outside of people's houses, and there were some things that were broken that needed to be fixed. And what happened for us is, we thought we would take to about Memorial Day, about 2 months, and that's about what happened. 2 months later, our governor said, far be it for me to tell you guys, you know, what's an essential business and what isn't. As long as you follow the procedures, you guys can open up businesses. So people started slowly going back out, but we started getting tons of calls because of everything you just said. People were sitting at home for 2 months, but they were working. Everybody was still drawing paychecks if you weren't in the hospitality industry or the restaurant industry. And Atlanta was very insulated from that, from the standpoint of we got a very diverse base. So a lot of people were working from home. Those UPS, HP, all those executives I said in the beginning, they all still had their jobs and they were still cranking along. And they were sitting at home with their kids going insane, going, man, I need doors for my office because I love my kids, but I got to keep them out.
Put up a lot of extra doors, a lot of extra boundaries.
we put up a lot of boundaries, my friends. Put up a lot of boundaries. That's true. But and looking at it now, the impact of COVID now, where it's, I mean, we're still in it, but obviously people are moving back and going back to work and doing things. But what I'm seeing is that if you worked in an office setting for 5 days a week, today you're doing it maybe 2 or 3 days a week, which means you're at your house more than you're at your office. And people are still a little tentative to travel overseas. Now we have this other thing happening with the Russia-Ukraine problem, and that's a big word. I'm not sure it's a problem. It's worse than that, but I won't go there. But people are afraid to travel. So, but they've been making money and they've been doing things, so they want to change their lifestyle. So we have actually started to do more bathroom remodeling and kitchen remodeling because they realize that they're going to be in their home a lot more than they were before. And so that's kept us busy.
How did you get into, because you initially, I think you said mechanical engineering, but then when you started your business, you got into home improvement. So how did that happen? Is that something you had passion in, you know, before you got into mechanical engineering?
It's even worse than that, but yes, I have a passion for it. I got a master's in mechanical engineering, went to work in manufacturing. Then I worked with banking and did mergers and acquisitions for a consulting company. And I ended up with my last job was here at SunTrust Banks in Atlanta, which is now called Truist. And I was running the commercial loan operations. So you want to talk about a circuitous path to where I got. When I started looking at ideas and things, I liked working on homes for fun. It was something I've always done. It was something, honestly, I thought everybody's vacation was you had to go work on somebody's house. Literally my first trip to Florida when I was a kid, I didn't even realize they had beaches in Florida because all we did was work on my grandparents' house the whole time I was there. So here I was realizing that that's what I like doing. I really enjoy it. So I built around that passion because one thing, and I put that in my book, is that when you find your passion, it's a lot easier to be great. You can be great about something maybe you're not passionate about because you have the success habits that define what greatness is for you and what you want it to be. But when you're really passionate about something, it's really easy to say, man, I can be great at this. Because do I work all the time? Yeah, I think, but I don't even count it anymore. Where I used to count it in the corporate world. I'm like, oh, how many hours you put in this week? now I don't even count hours. I don't even know.
Yeah. You enjoy doing what you do.
Yeah, like I said before we started, it's very manic for us right now, and it's the spring season here. We're very busy, but man, I had so much fun today, and I'm having a blast talking to you guys. You actually are you're getting me re-energized thinking about, oh, that's right, that's why I got into this business.
Was it a slow transition, or was it like you had a trigger, like I've had a moment, and you completely transitioned to small business
or entrepreneurship?
Yeah, entrepreneurship.
That's a great question. So a year and a half before I started, I came home and I had my suit on, and I took my tie off, and I whipped it across the room, and I looked at my wife and I said, that's it. I'm sick of this. I'm starting my own business. She's like, whoa, 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 easy there, big fella. You better have a plan. So I'm like, no, that's it. And so it took me a year and a half to really think about the transition. I put together a business plan. I started working around our financials to make sure I had the financial wherewithal to basically weather what I didn't know was coming, which was the recession. And then what I did is I quit, and I went all the way in. I sold my Mercedes. I bought 2 white vans. I wrapped them. I put myself in one, and I was out there being a handyman and doing an estimating and running another guy and building everything that we built today. So that was a big leap. And that's why, that's the title of my book, From the Zoo to the Wild. I was in the zoo, and I leapt into the wild, and I was rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling.
I guess since I have you here, I'd like to probably bounce some, I guess, maybe a few creative business possibility questions, something like that. My dad's about 70 years old, and he's been doing carpentry all of his life. Mississippi, of course, for what he's kind of like the people's carpenter to a certain degree at this point. He enjoys doing what he's doing, grateful for the work that he has right now. And Mississippi isn't nearly anywhere as busy as, Atlanta, a place like Atlanta. But how would someone, as far as or business like this, kind of branch out into to become more, a little educational, to try to, expand a little? Because, I know a lot of it depends on the knowledge. I have 3 brothers. We have some carpenter knowledge, but we don't have enough knowledge to go out there on the job by ourselves and, start a job, or even, try to complete, unless it's some painting. I can do some painting. But when it comes to like, I even got into laying ceramic tile, and I was pretty good, but I still needed him to help me get started and things like that. How can someone like him set up a system? Because basically he does a lot of the work on his own right now. He doesn't, and trust, or, trusting other people can do certain work to a certain quality is something that he rather take his time and get things done with it. He's not just a big business, but a way to expand as a small business, not looking to take just super major jobs, but to find a way to, I guess, expand his business and share his knowledge, or share some of the knowledge that he has with them. Would it be more of just, have somebody follow him around in his work to grab some of it, or just do it more as a business and have somebody working with him to grab that knowledge?
What your dad does is one of the hardest things that we all struggle with. Is he's doing what he loves to do. That's his passion, and he loves working with his hands. He doesn't necessarily want to stop and have to handhold somebody else to do it, right. But he knows he has to do it. And then it's that the thing that struggles is when you're out there, as we call it, working on the tools. When you're out there cutting or painting or doing whatever, it is hard to answer a phone call from a customer and set up a time for an estimate, or you forgot that person didn't pay you. Then you got to drive all the way across town to pick up that check, and now you're not working, you're just collecting. And that's the hard part. The business aspects of what we do in the trades is, for a lot of us, one of the most difficult things. And that's why, for me, I brought, I think, the white collar experience to the blue collar world, with an understanding that those blue collar guys, they are truly artists. I actually challenge my guys every day. That's one of our key tenets in our company, is be an artist every day, because that's what he's doing. And that's what these guys are doing. The struggle you just mentioned is, how do you transition that knowledge to let's call it the younger group? And there's some movements around there that are happening more and more where people are realizing, hey, you don't have to go to school for 4 years and sit in a cube somewhere, or go to school for 4 years and not sit in a cube somewhere, to realize that you'd rather be out there working with your hands, and you can do pretty well with it. And I've tried to plug into a couple of those here in Atlanta to help younger people understand that, hey, this is it's a great career path, and you can go from being a carpenter and then maybe eventually a project manager, and then eventually maybe even running your own business. But you have to be willing to let go of a few things, and that's also really hard for our artists to do.
Yeah.
If you told somebody, hey, you're going to go paint a painting, now I want you to go teach somebody to paint a painting, and you're going to let them paint for somebody else. Oh, no, I do it. I'm the best at it. So that's the struggle that a lot of my guys have, and that's why they've come here, is because we do have the business set up for them, where they don't have to worry about the collections and the setting up the sales process. I have other people who do the sales, and these guys get to go out there and be artists every day. So that is one of the bigger struggles for everybody, because I'm sure if I worked with your dad for a day, there is no doubt I'd pick up at least 3 things that I've never seen before, going, wow, that's awesome. Now, how do I get that to somebody else who can really do something with it?
Yeah, because I know he's a genius, from the information he has packed here. Yeah, it's probably about 50 years of carpentry work. Yeah.
And people, what's interesting is as a society, we don't value that, right? We value actors and singers and songwriters and people who are artists. Well, that's what I tell these guys. I'm like, you guys are as much as an artist that they are. You're leaving a legacy impact in a house. You're doing something. In fact, this morning we had training. I said, when you guys do this one thing, and I won't get into the story of what we do, I said, you guys is there anybody in here who doesn't know how to do that? And they all said, well, no, of course we all know how to. I said, you realize our customers think that's voodoo. What you just pulled off, they're still trying to figure out how you just did that. And that's something you just take for granted. And so it's hard to get that mentality, because we always consider them to be, in my world, we call them skilled trades. I would say most of the people in the world don't appreciate what carpenters, plumbers, electricians, heating and air specialists do each and every day.
Is that why they used to say a lot that there's a shortage in people going into trade jobs or trade schools to learn some of these things? You think that's because it's not respected in society, or why do you think that is? Or is there still a shortage in that?
Or it's just not
industry?
appreciated but the right way, because even like with my pop, some of the jobs that he go do, he's skilled enough to know how to kind of look at a certain job and know what the possibilities could be. Like if you pull this out and it's riding on the other side, the job is going to be bigger. You're going to it's going to be a lot bigger bill, or you're going to, you're kind of opening up a problem and opening up another problem sometime with certain jobs that you're taking. And the skill that he has to kind of be able to spot that. I almost kind of forgot what you were saying a little bit, but the skill that he has to kind of spot that is, people don't really or don't really understand that is a possible problem. You could say that, all right, this wall here, you may want this sheetrock replaced, but when you take that sheetrock off, you see maybe like 4 or 5 rotten 2x4s, water damaged 2x4s, and people just feel like, he's finna overcharge me for something. And it's like, no, it's going to take a lot of skill for him to even replace those, from maybe cut the 2x4 off here, cut the 2x4 off here. And, it's a certain, you got to have a problem solving solution there when it comes to that area, or expertise. And it takes years. And I feel like, people, they don't necessarily appreciate it, like it's
not promoted for sure. I mean, let's just go watch the news tonight, or go pick your favorite channel. If you don't pick HGTV or watch This Old House, those are the only 2 outlets where they can go, wow, this stuff is really cool. This is an artist thing. But everything else is centered around, well, in today's world, here's a good example. I'm going to go out there and be an influencer. Really, that's your job description. You're going to go out and be an influencer. That's not really a career path, man. I think you got to do some other things. But back before then, back in the 2000s, it was that we'll get in the internet.
That was a podcast, thing. Most podcasters get that a little deeper when you say the influencer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to go start a podcast, make a living. I started my podcast. I promise you, I'm never going to dime off mine right now. I need some help with that, but that's just I'm just having fun with it right now. I'm not making any money at it, but
Yeah, we didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
but what are we trained in school to do? In my high school that I went to, they took out the machine shop class the year before I started.
Yeah, the career development.
And so that was never promoted. It was, promoted to say, the next step is for you to go to college. And so I went off and became an engineer, but I worked in a machine shop before I went to school. And machinists are also, another skilled trade that people admire in the areas that it's in, but it's definitely not promoted nationally. Or Mike Rowe is probably the one who's probably the biggest lightning rod for, hey, trades are a great career path for a lot of people who, let's face it, you can go out there and work with your hands, and you can move around and be in a lot of different places. I went to a conference last week, and I had to sit there for 3 hours. I'm like, I'm losing my mind, man. I forgot that I can't do this anymore. I used to be able to do that, but I need to be out there and seeing people and looking at houses and training guys on what we're doing. And it's just not promoted, and it's just not sexy, but it should be.
Yeah.
So how did you get into podcasting? What inspired you to first get into it?
So I don't know if you can tell now, I love talking, but I also have a passion around entrepreneurship and making that leap from corporate America to starting my own business and then scaling it. Because one of the things you'd asked the question earlier is, how can my dad grow? Well, I wish we could grow by just having robots and having people overseas answer phones for us, but it doesn't work like that. We have to have people. I mean, we got to have people,
Yeah.
and they got to be here working. And that's what one of the things I learned is to scale a business of mine to get to that size is that I had to break away from being a handyman. Of course, that was never my specialty, but I'm a really good manager. And so now how do I get to become a really good entrepreneur? By having good people around and good managers of my good people. And now right now I'm training some newer team members, but at one point I was working 2 or 3 days on the business, and I was doing podcasting and entrepreneurship and giving back and talking to young people about opportunities and starting your own business. And I really liked it, and I've really grown from it. I didn't realize how much I would learn by interviewing other people and talking and getting their experiences over just an hour. And I've made some good friends over it. And I've only been doing this for a little under 8 months. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think in total we're hitting about our 7th month mark. We started in October 2020, and we recorded 17 episodes. And December 28th, 2020, it rained, and there was a leak in our roof, and it rained in basically on the studio. It had a music and podcast studio together. So it took us about a year to rebuild some energy and, get things together. And we started back January of this year.
Okay.
And we're about episode 70? What episode have we released?
Yeah, it's like 70 something.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. So you guys are weekly, right?
Well, we're almost daily, 6 days
like
a week.
6 days a week at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But,
well, that's great. What do you guys like most about it?
Conversation, genuine conversation. I grew up as a musician, and a lot of the relationships that I've had with people probably have evolved around music. So even taking off from music for a while, and then getting into this, and the one of the main things was to learn a lot of different things, like I said, from different topics and different parts of the world, and just have genuine conversations with people. And that was one of the motivating things, just to learn something outside of music, and to talk to, like I said, we've talked to a lot of people who have books. So it's a difference between having to read the book and then you can talk to the person themselves. So
yeah, guilty. I
that as well.
I wrote the book. I still don't have the Audible version out yet. And a lot of the people, I said, I wrote the book for somebody like me. And that's the guy who won't read the book. So that's the other. I like talking more, and I like listening to people more. So I got to make that happen so I can get that word out, because the book is, it's been termed gritty and irreverent. This is all the stuff that you'd never learn in school, because they'd be afraid to tell you about how to run a business and what you run into, because when I first started the business, I had a projection I was going to kill it. I mean, I was going to knock it out of the park, and that didn't happen at all for a long time.
I know there had been a lot of nervousness. Of course, you know, you're going in to people's home and, you know, them trusting your work and you being in having the challenge of, like I said, if it starts off as one thing, it becomes bigger, you know, that's a first time thing. And I'm sure you're probably expert with it now on relaying that conversation with customers. How long did it take you to kind of stumble over some things to get, you know, a nice footing in the business and like, okay, these rules are the rules and this goes like this?
There was never one point in time. I always felt like throughout the time as I grew, yeah, we always talk about growing pains. Everybody does in business. You know, I hit one part, and I wrote that in the book, that I had 5 technicians working for me, and I was the estimator, but I was also the scheduler, and I had one lady in the office answering the calls, building what I have today. And at one point, I had 5 what we call callbacks. That's redos. Go back. You got to go back and fix something that didn't work right. And so I shut my business down. I told the guys on Thursday and Friday, I said, look, I'll pay you for the day, but we'll pick up work on Monday. And I went and redid. I went and visited every site. And everyone I started to figure out was, it really wasn't their fault. Well, one of them was, but the other 4, it was me. I didn't tell the people what to expect. I didn't tell them how to expect what we were doing. I didn't have procedures in place to say, hey, you guys have to collect at the end. It's not supposed to be me. And I didn't have call ahead processes and all the stuff we have today where we call and text ahead because we know that's more important than even sometimes the end product that we do. So I learned that and put a few processes in place. Then we grow and grow and grow. And I felt like I was on a roll. And one of my mentors 3 years later looked at me and said, well, how's this? Asking me some serious business metrics. And I shared them. And he said, wow, it sounds like you're in a rut. Like, what? I'm not in a rut. Man, I drove home. In fact, it was in Marietta. I'm driving over to the other side of Atlanta, stuck in traffic, and I'm driving. I'm mad. I'm like, that's it. By the time I was done driving, I went, man, he's right. I'm in a rut. So I had to retool some more things and start to rely on other people to help me grow. And I put a sales manager in place, and I put an operations manager in place, and held them accountable to do those things. And then I felt like, hey, I'm off and doing it again. And well, spring hit, and I've had a few people who had to leave. One guy moved, one guy got a job he couldn't resist. So now I'm training all over again, and I'm back in the business doing what I was doing 3 and 4 years ago. So it goes in fits and starts, and it goes up and down. So I don't think I ever got to that one point, but it does feel much more successful. My definition of success is seeing a team solve a problem that they couldn't solve on their own and doing it without my intervention, and seeing the outcome and a happy customer who puts a beautiful Google review out there that says the whole team solved my problem, from the lady who answered my phone to the salesperson who came out and gave the estimate to the guy who actually came out and did the work. That's really rewarding. That's success for me.
Yeah, gotta have a good team.
Yeah.
Definitely takes one of the best teams.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts, is figuring out the process. Earlier, you asked what do you guys like about the podcast? For me, it is first thing is learning from all kinds of different people. You just never know. It's like, even with certain people, you have a certain topic in mind, but you end up learning so much more during the conversation. And secondly, I like the whole process of it, and figuring out how to make it better and things like that. Before the podcast, I used to help him with his music, from promoting and figuring out different things, creating the website, creating flyers and album covers and press release stuff, and all kinds of, figuring out how to tweak stuff and make it better. So I kind of just transferred that into the podcast. I'm like, from figuring out ways to promote it to just figuring out the process. And it's funny, for this episode, you just mentioned your thing with the process earlier. And I actually learned something from scheduling this interview, because we had to schedule it a little differently. I scheduled using your system, and I realized, you know what? I've been meaning to put some of this process in place for my own podcast, and I didn't get a chance. But going through your process, I was like, okay, yeah, I need to implement this. And I've had that with other, when you interview other podcasters and they, have a certain thing either pre or post interview and things like that, that I want to incorporate into my process. And you just learn new things every day.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. I love it.
And she's more of the tech department or the promo marketing. And I guess I'm more of, the sound and the physical part, but it's it's kind of a process that we've grown with. And like I said, is one of the best outside of music. A lot of things were okay, dealing with music has been loud for years. So with the podcast is, and then taking a break from that, it kind of was a quiet part of life as well. So with that being kind of one of the, the biggest changes, it kind of went along with a lot of the stress that happened with the pandemic, a lot of things switching up, and it just became kind of a mutual, conversation and happy place to a certain, because there's always the energy that come with it. When we started off, we were nervous every podcast, but now it's a lot more relaxed and genuine and, routine. Yeah.
I got to share something with you guys because I use music as an analogy. And so my artists truly are artists, but they're like gig economy artists, right? So where's their gig this weekend? Where's their gig next weekend? And once I get them to understand that our gig is Monday through Friday and that they can actually put food on their table and be their artists that they are. So I always say this, and you guys would probably get a kick out of this. So I say sometimes my scheduler, I said, sometimes, Deborah, you just got to manage the talent. Right? Got to manage that talent. So I'm sure you guys have heard that line in music industries before, but we use that analogy in our world, even though it may not translate for you guys, but it does get them laughing.
Yeah. And the podcast world is new. It's one of the freest places you can kind of be yourself in another way as well. And it offers a lot of freedom. And I know that's one of the reasons why we gravitated towards it, because you can still, you have your style of podcast, someone else has their style of podcast. Not being a critic, but, I know some podcasts are basically just shows. It's not really a podcast. It's so, produced. It looks like, no different from, a regular The View.
Yeah.
So
I can promise you that's not mine, even though we made a little studio here because obviously I've got a bunch of artists. You guys I got a green screen behind me and I've got some homage to my co-host. He's a Scottish English guy, so we put some plaid and tartan up, but on the other side I've got a bunch of leopard skin and tiger skins. So because for the small business safari, this is our guys helped me put that together. But you're right, mine is not well produced because it's up to me.
But when you say well produced, that, that's not necessarily the podcast world. When a lot of people, it's podcast. So we're grateful to have visuals. That's more of the thing that we've gotten so far past as, as podcasts as well. It was mainly, audio. The visual is the bonus. So when you say production wise, I respect the ones that have basically just their wall and they can sit there and talk and that's their podcast, to the, the borderline production. Let's say if you have millions of dollars in a major company sponsored your podcast, that's a show.
Right.
That's more of a borderline TV show. Yeah. So I like
you guys.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Have you guys ever had somebody come up to you, never met them before, and they came up and they felt like they just knew you because they've been listening to the podcast, and they're like, "Oh man, I just really," and they start talking to you on a personal level? Have you ever had that happen?
No,
not quite. Yeah,
not yet.
Maybe a little before of a guess, but not quite. Yeah.
So I went to this conference for remodelers. It's the National Association of Remodeling. It was a national conference, and I met up, and this guy came up and said, "Hey, you're Chris Lalomia. Hey," and he starts telling me all the episodes he's been listening to, and man, I just love this. And he felt like he just knew me, right? And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. I'm like, wow,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a starstruck, "Hey, can I get your autograph?" It was just like, "Hey, I really think I know you," and I really like what you're doing. And I got a question for you on this. And we hit it off and went off and had beers that night. We're staying in contact, but yeah, he had that personal connection that I was like, man, that's really cool.
I look forward to that
I know,
day.
right? That would be nice.
Music wise, they do that. I used to street perform in downtown LA on my cello for a while. So I was pretty, we're pretty known by a lot of the locals. So when you're walking, hey, I saw you,
That's awesome.
That's from that. Right now it's more, okay,
Yeah.
podcast. I want that with the podcast world. Because she loves the feedback as well. For our listeners, gypC loves the feedback. So thank you. She appreciates all the feedback.
You got to put me out like.
Because she's the, of course, the tech department. So it's a lot of hard work and paid time promoting and everything like that. So you have a promotion team, or you do a lot of the stuff yourself?
So I have a social media person. Actually, what I've done is I have a new intern who's going to work with us this summer. I find somebody in college who wants to learn more about entrepreneurship. And I had one last year. So he came and learned about not only the Trusted Toolbox, but I have another business that works on training other companies with customer service skills for our artists. And he came in and the entrepreneurship stuff. So I have him do the production. He went back to school, but he does the production. And he does a little bit of social media production and a little bit of promotion, but I haven't done or put any resource or money behind that really.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too. Just finding an intern and find ways to exchange, whether it's, knowledge, or if you want your podcast produced and we can exchange some time, because we have the studio with the 4 mics set up. So there's plenty to exchange. I think we do have to step through that plan.
Yeah.
I tell you, I put just one thing. So this year, I have business goals and I have quarterly objectives for the Trusted Toolbox. I have personal goals and quarterly objectives for me, Chris. And I also have what it is called my legacy goal. What's the legacy I'm going to bring this year? And this year, I'm trying to give back to younger people more. So I'm going to have a summer entrepreneurship class here in Atlanta that we're going to start promoting out and see if we can't get like 15 to 20 kids to show up. And I say kids because I'm old, but I love the energy. But I just put one post on LinkedIn, looking for this entrepreneur position, internship. I got 24 people to reply and say, I want to do this. And I was jazzed. And so the person I picked happened to be one of my friend's daughters, who is actually graduating with a 4-year degree, but she wants to do this with me for the summer to figure out what she wants to do when she grows up. And I'm like, come on, I'll help you. Because it's not just, oh, let's promote the podcast. Okay, and now I got to do this. In fact, one of the guy last year got me into TikTok. So now I'm Chris Talk on TikTok. But, but my friends are like, what are you doing? I said, I don't know, this kid got me into it, man. I don't know what to do with it, but it's fun. I love it. Yeah, we got all kinds of opportunities.
Pretty decent results.
Yeah, so it was great giving back and getting back. These guys have so much energy. It's just great being around younger people with that.
Now, I was saying she gets pretty good results with TikTok.
Yeah, I do like TikTok.
Oh, yeah?
More than
as far as with the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, TikTok and LinkedIn have been the better promotion for podcasting, at least.
All right, what's the TikTok so I can go find it?
Oh, American gypC podcast.
Yeah, everything is American gypC. Yeah.
Good branding. I like it. There you go. Kudos on branding.
Yeah, see, I've worked in marketing departments.
Yeah, she's a web developer.
So that's why I get to transfer some of the things that I learned, because even at work, I do more like web development, more web and application building. So I don't, unless I work in a marketing department of a company, which happens every now and then, I don't get to play out some of these things that I like to do. So with the podcast and other things that we do, I can kind of implement some of the things that I learn.
Yeah. And when it comes to, I guess, guest or how we linked up, was this through Matchmaker? Okay.
I think it was. Yep.
We get all of our guests have been, or most of them have been from Matchmaker.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's been great. I have been running through a number of people I just knew personally over the years. And so I'm still running through them. And of course, I love having them come into the studio because my co-host and I, he's a home brewer. He loves brewing beer. So we always have beer.
Nice.
And on one episode, he said he didn't have any beer. I said, well, good news is we just got some Jack Daniels here. So that turned into a long 3-hour episode that we actually didn't publish most of it, but we had a blast.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was gonna, I think I had a question, but it's sliding away. All right, I lost it. I had a question there that it was just there for a little bit, but
it'll come back.
But I guess before we get ready to close things out, we didn't talk too much about, you said you're working on the book, or?
Yeah.
So I have a book out. It's called From the Zoo to the Wild, Your Guide to Entrepreneurial Freedom and Wealth. It's about my story. Like I said, it's a quicker read. It starts out with a quote. If you read the first paragraph of that chapter and that doesn't ring with you, there's other chapters that'll make some sense. But it was about my journey from leaving corporate America and then starting a business and then scaling it up and learning about it. And then also training those people that I call artists that I really had to learn. One of the things that was really cool about leaving corporate America and working with the team I have today is to use the term that was a long time ago, it's WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. These guys are very genuine people. They're when they come in, they tell you they need more money. There's no ulterior motive. They just need more money. When they say, I need a day off, they need a day off. But in the corporate world, there was always an agenda or something always happening. You're always trying to figure out what people are thinking. And these people are just trying to make this happen. And when you can find those kind of people, and then you can put that, what I call that professional wraparound, and also be able to explain to them that you really need to think of yourself as an artist and see these guys flourish. That's what I put in the book. So that's why I put the book out.
When did you start writing the book?
That's a good question. I started writing about 4 years ago. And then I got serious in the pandemic. I said, hey, well, maybe I can do this. And then I had to get somebody to help me organize my thoughts. I was all over the board. And the guy says, well, this is how much I charge. And, at the start of the pandemic, I'm like, well, I don't have any money, man. I'm working my way down to come my way back up. And then when we really got in earnest, we started in August, and I had it done by February. And so it's been out for just over a year right now.
Okay.
We've thought about writing a book a couple of times, and we actually don't know. I've heard of a few different processes, mostly like people using Amazon and things like that. And you just mentioned you used a person. Like, how does the process go in transferring the information to the person? Like, how does
That's
that
a great question. I learned a lot about that. If I would have known how hard it was to really write a book, I probably wouldn't have started. Once I was in, it's easy just to sit there and start puking on a page and type. But what we did was he took all those thoughts, and we got on Zoom calls, and he would get these things put into transcripts and then organize the thoughts, of which mine are all over the board all the time. But he was able to put me in chapter thoughts, if you will, and then just have me riff in that chapter. And then he would put the words together, and then you'd have to go back and forth and read them. So I did that with him. And then I really have just truly self-published. I didn't go with a publisher. He helped me self-publish on Amazon. But and I went out and started listening to a bunch of podcasts about the best way to promote it and how to do all that stuff. And that's something I'm actually going to try to work on again this summer with the new intern, is to get a little bit more traction around it.
I'm guessing the podcast said go to podcast to promote your book.
They said go to podcast to promote your book. That's right. Yeah, go to podcast, get out there. So doing that. I also want to pitch the Home Service Institute work that we're doing. But as I've been getting on other podcasts, I'm having a blast doing it. I enjoy it. I actually am getting energy off of it, just like I am now. But also I get my name out there, and I've had other people contact me and say, hey, do you have 30 minutes to talk about a business? Because I have a handyman business, and I'm doing this thing in Austin, Texas, and I just wanted to see if I could pick your brain. I'm like, absolutely, man, love to do it.
Nice. So with the podcast, do you get any as far as attention for sponsorship or anything like that, or do you sponsor yourself?
So right now I just sponsor
business?
myself.
Right. As far as
Right. The
you
Home
promote your
Service
business?
Institute, my book.
Okay.
I promote my book. I promote the Home Service Institute, which is also our training vehicle. And I don't think I have the listenership to ask for any sponsorship yet, but I do have a lot of, I use a lot of technology for our company. So I am getting, as soon as I get what I think is a good amount of listeners, I'm going to go to these guys and say, hey, look, I can promote your business a little bit more. You got to sponsor me, or at least give me a break in my software.
Yeah. As a podcaster, how many, like, we're going to get ready to celebrate like our 100th episode. I think we have seats about 70 or so for this season and 17 from last season. So we're going to kind of stack them up and celebrate the 100th episode. What, as a podcaster, do you have a certain, like, a number where you feel like, okay, I have this many podcasts recorded, I feel like, all right, this is enough, or to move forward, or a nice foundation? Because we didn't think about it until we started to do the calculation, like, wow, okay, from the beginning when we only had a few asking for sponsorship seeing one way, now we have a certain number of podcasts. It's the traction is there. We feel like it's a lot better chance of getting sponsorship, at least just having more podcasts, even though the views may not be, or like I said, the audience may not be as large as you'd like it to be, but at least you have the content to show.
Yeah, I don't have a content or a number. I had a listenership. I was hoping to get to 100 before consistent downloads on every episode.
Okay.
And we're close to that right now. So I'm like, okay, because again, I listen to podcasts and you hear all the numbers too, guys, right? I don't know, but if it's 100 genuine people who are consistently downloading it, that's good, I guess I know there's people who are a lot bigger than us. We're, like I said, we're a weekly podcast. I was doing a Friday summary of what we did just to see how it worked, and we just decided literally this week to say, okay, let's stop doing that. People aren't interested. And I did get some feedback from other guys that said, hey, I love listening to your podcast, but that Friday one's just too short, man. I want more. I said, can you tell my wife that you wanted to hear me talk more? I mean, wants to hear these props, man. So back to answering that question, I don't have that magic number on that. I wasn't ready. And that's what we want to evaluate this summer, to see if it's worth it to promote it and get some sponsorship, because I've got some good angles with a number of people, because I know the people who are listening are trying to figure out what kind of CRM software you'd use in the home services business, or how
it's definitely worth it to promote it. Yeah. For all of us, take some time. Like I said, it'll be worth it. At least.
Okay. I like it. You guys got, well, I'm actually, I'm definitely going to link up with you guys, and I'm going to follow you on TikTok too. So, because I don't know, like I said, TikTok, I got on it last year, and I remember, how you get those, I have an iPhone, you get how long you're on your phone the screen time.
Yeah.
And it popped up on Sunday morning at breakfast with my daughter, who's 23, and she popped up. She goes, Dad, you using your phone more than me. I said, kid, I run my business off this thing, man. And she goes, well, let me look at this. What's your number one app? I said, well, all right, look, it was TikTok. Whoops. It wasn't my software. It wasn't my email. It was
yeah, that's why I say she's doing good on TikTok. I don't have it on my phone.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous slope, let me tell you.
Yeah. I agree.
I forgot to ask, what part of Georgia or Atlanta are you serving? Because I have, my whole family is down there in Georgia. And I'm like, they would be mad if I didn't ask.
A project right now.
Yeah, so we're in North Metro Atlanta. So if you know Atlanta, we also have that beautiful beltway we call 285. I call that the 285 Super Speedway. We go from I-20 north all the way up to Cumming, and then all the way over from Ackworth to Snellville. So everybody in the north suburbs. And literally going to start a new branch in Athens, Georgia, where University of Georgia is, probably it will start in the next month. He's in here training with us right now for the next month.
I think I was going to ask, even that might have been the question that I lost earlier. Being in the home repair, are you also have your hands in real estate and things like that?
I didn't. That's a great question. A lot of people ask me, says, okay, well, you must be doing house flipping, or you do rental, or you must have a bunch of rental properties because you have that built-in workforce. Now, I came from banking, and I realized how you can best do flipping is a skill set that you have to have. Number one, I think you have to have some street smarts. You have to just know what the economy or what's going to work in a neighborhood or in an area you're at. Number two, you have to understand that you have to buy really low to make it work on a flip. So where do you go? You go to foreclosure. You go to those courthouse steps back in the old days. And I started to look into that and realized that, number one, my street smarts were a little off. And number two, I didn't want to have to go through the foreclosure buying process because I was feeling too guilty that I was buying somebody else's house they didn't get. I know it's weird. It sounds weird, but I just didn't do it. So
decent conscience though. Yeah. To have that conversation with the person. Yeah, my house got foreclosed. You're like, oh, I hope I didn't.
All right, I'll buy it. Yeah.
I hope I didn't already buy it, basically. But yeah, that's understood. Business wise, though, we still respect, the people that do buy foreclosed homes. It's an awesome.
Yeah, that's a skill set. I mean, they know how to make the numbers work. I know a number of guys who do it. And I get why they're doing it. It wasn't for me. And I would have lost focus on building my business. I had to focus in a little bit more and stay away from those shiny objects.
Yeah. And in Mississippi, my family touched on that. My brothers, they kind of invest in houses, because in Mississippi, it's a sleeping gold mine, basically. To me, the area has to grow a little bit, but when you're talking, $3,000 house, $5,000 house, do a little investment, put it on HUD, and then let HUD pay you. It's a different ball game.
Yeah. See, that whole process, I know enough about it to know that I didn't want to be in it because all it takes is one bad decision. Buy one house with a really bad foundation, or buy something with use the term sleeping.
That's where my dad comes in on the business, and it's automatic. Dad, come look at this house, and he'll be able to. First thing he's going to do is look under it and see, what's going on with the foundation.
Yep.
You don't have to be
I know a guy who lost a lot that way. He got into it, and it was the foundation. It was a huge foundation problem, and he had to put an extra 10 grand into it, which was all his profit. He said we ended up upside down.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I think I'll just stay on the sidelines and keep doing what I know. And I don't even know if I know this one well.
Well, you can always get better. Consistent self-improvement.
I like it. That's right. I need it.
Made it through several bumps. I think you could say you made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the book as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a big accomplishment. I've been really happy to have it out there. And it has been good. I heard a great stat that made me feel better just the other day was that they say that 1% of the people who say they want to write a book actually write it. Because when you do write it, I thought everybody wrote a book. I mean, because all you do is see other book writers, right? And it's the classic back to promotion. If you're thinking you want to get a red car and you start driving around, all you see are red cars. So I thought everybody had written a book. I'm like, oh man, I'm just lost in this big sea of book writers. Then I heard that phrase, and I'm like, oh well, maybe there is something out there. Maybe I can get it promoted.
Yeah, definitely. The pressure is on us. Definitely, as podcasters, we talk to book writers all the time. So, like, all right, we feel like we're the only people out here in the world that's not writing a book. So we have to write a book. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great podcasts about how to do it and how to publish it in different ways. Somebody asked me, what do you, yeah. So Mike McAllowitz has a lot of podcasts, but the one that was really good is Kindlepreneur. Dave, I just lost his name. He was really interesting. His podcast about how to do it and how to market it. And of course, I thought I followed everything he said. It didn't work, but I actually didn't follow it like he does it. He's really good at it.
So what are some of your favorite podcasts that inspired you?
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you asked that. So I love John Lee Dumas, the Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast. That's a daily podcast. I don't get to listen to that one daily. I pick and choose on business topics that I want to learn more about. So I've liked, what I'm trying to remember the other ones that I just went in and out of. That is called the Entrepreneur's Mind is one of them. I actually, guilty pleasure, I just started listening to Smartless, back to a production show. This is Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. That's a show, by the way. It is. It's a show. It's not a podcast. But they're so darn funny, and they've had some great guests on who are just hilarious. So I've been listening to them going, oh, wow, it's funny. I like it. So, gosh, I'm trying to think. I don't listen to too many fun ones. I do more of the business ones.
Yeah, I think my favorite category is, like, I call it edutainment. It's basically a mixture of educational entertainment, basically.
All right, so what are your favorites? I'm going to look at my notes.
Like I said, I don't really have a favorite.
I'll name, I guess, my favorite. Impact Theory by Tom Bilyeu. You might like that one. What else? I know there's a How I Built This. I think that's what it was called, the NPR one, the Guy Raz.
Yeah, that's the, in fact, I just NPR. Yeah, I love him too. Guy Raz.
Yeah. It's been a while. It's like I listened to podcasts when I used to commute a lot, and now I don't have as much commute, and I'm trying to find like times to fit in the podcast.
And we record podcasts as well, so it's a little different.
Right.
I enjoy mine so much, as where it's harder to kind of just go listen to others too.
Yeah. I when I was back out of the business and not training consistently and having people in the truck with me all the time, I would listen to podcasts in between appointments or going to check on guys or see things. But when you're training guys, I don't listen to podcasts. I'm usually in there training and talking and getting ready for the next appointment as we're seeing customers. So I miss it. What do you guys, I've heard this one, the number one genre for podcasts is real world or true world crimes, true crimes.
Yeah, a lot of crime stuff is that, and storytelling with crimes or investigation. Yeah, crime is a very popular genre in podcasting, and I'm just trying to figure out why. How did we get
it?
I heard it was number one. I'm like, really? It's over news, and number two is comedy. I'm like, okay, I get comedy, but true crimes, really? Okay. And I don't want to hear about all that stuff. That stuff weirds me out.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear about bad stuff.
I've seen a lot of times when I look up like top 10 podcasts or things like that, it's always the first, there's at least like 5 of them that are going to be 5 out of 10 that would be crime related. It's
that was mind-boggling when I heard that. I'm like, I was telling my guy, I said, well, maybe we should do true crimes in small business.
Right.
I don't think that's going to be hot enough. Yeah, it's not going to be as exciting. It's not going to be as thrilling.
Right.
Yeah. That's what you got to love about the podcast world, though. It's
focus on
it's evolving and it's doing its own thing.
Haunted house, home improvements in some way. Slide in the your topic.
I think I might do a whole episode on that. Haunted houses we've worked on. Were they really haunted? But no, I'm going to make it up.
Just make it up.
But it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been a great conversation. Man, the energy has been great. Just talking with another podcaster.
It's fun. I've enjoyed it. So one of the things I did do is that the setup we have now, actually, I have a microphone, I have headphones on, I have a mixing board. That was our celebration of getting to our 1,000th download early on, because I knew a guy who was in podcasting and he just couldn't do it anymore. And he said, hey, look, I have all this equipment and I just need to get rid of it because my wife wants me to get out of the house. And I said, all right, I'll buy it. So I brought it in and all my guys were pumped up. Like, look at that, man. We're going big time. Look, we have microphones and everything now.
We're operating on the Rodecaster Pro, and it does a lot of the
I guess mixing.
Pre-mixing,
it's meant
post-mixing and as well. Yeah. So
I researched that one. But that one I would have had to pay a lot more for. So this guy sold me a Behringer.
Yeah, Behringer is good on it's a good company when it comes to mixing.
Yeah, but I do. We use mics for filming our training for our guys, and we do videos because again, with our artists, they aren't going to sit there in a classroom and just listen. You've got to be doing. And so we train videos on how to do something, then we'll actually put our hands on it. So we use the Rode wireless mics, and I've been really happy with the quality on those.
Yeah. Gotta love them. The technology that makes doing these things a little bit easier.
Yeah, right.
Same in the hardware or carpentry, home improvement. We grew up playing with the saws and stuff in the yard that my dad had. So, the jigsaw was the basic, and you have the skill saw, table saw were some of the ones, but to see the things from, back then to now, wow, the technology for building it's amazing.
It is. It definitely has come a long way, even in 14 years. In fact, you got to go follow me on TikTok, or at least go check one out at customerservice.freak. That's my thing on Instagram and TikTok. But we had Milwaukee Tools come in and let us play with the tools, and we did around a training day around quality and safety. But we also got to play with the Milwaukee Tools. But I made all these guys line up and do the Beyonce drop. They had no idea what it was. Only two guys knew what it was supposed to be. And so I showed them all. I'm like, that's awesome. You guys were incredible. I showed it to them just this training this morning too. They were all laughing. It was so
like, it's just slow, like putting down the compressor, just slow, let it down, bend your knees, and then come back up.
And then I have another video where I had two of the ladies come out who were on the phones. I said, okay, you guys got to come out and work the tools for a little bit, see what you guys are selling. So I had one on a nail gun and one on a chop saw or power miter box. It was the best. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it's been, as far as quite an evolutionary journey when it comes to just technology, period, from music to the hard or to power tools to the podcasting industry. Because I think podcasting is, how old is podcasting?
Probably 3-4 years. No, it's probably longer.
No, it's a lot long. Because Joe Rogan has been doing it for a long
Tim
time.
Ferriss, however long he's been going, that's how long podcasting has been around.
So yeah, to see
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know when it started. Tim Ferriss, I do listen to him. Now I speed him up though. I do him on like 1.5.
I haven't. It's like my sister. She speeds everybody up.
I could not sit in the car listening to Tim, who's a very so slow. So I got him going. When I finally heard him talking like regular, like it's something else that was on a YouTube thing, I'm like, oh, that's what he sounds like.
So he does talk faster.
So I think there's some kind of a trend because I've seen a lot of people do that for podcasting. I don't know. There's a rule out there. You're supposed to be talking slower or something.
Possible.
Or there's some kind of flow.
And it makes sense because we did talk to a speech coach to where, it would make sense to kind of slow things down if you're doing more audio talking.
Right.
I think it's because
I can't do it.
Yeah, TV is so animated and everywhere else is so animated that podcast is, I guess, supposed to be more chill. But I think as one of those things, everyone's supposed to have their own rules because all our audiences are different. And, you know.
And she wasn't always a talker. So having a podcast has got her into talking.
That's great. You know what, though? They say the biggest growth comes when you get outside your comfort zone. Yeah. So that's awesome that you do that. And I know I'm supposed to slow down as I speak, but I just can't stand it because I get so excited, especially on my podcast.
No, but then if you're listening to you would be speeding yourself up anyway. So go with however you want to deliver the message.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm gonna find out if somebody actually speeds me up when they listen. Yeah.
Probably speed me up. I talk slow.
Well, that's good. I mean, like you said, you guys were trained. That's actually a good point. I'm going to bring that up the next time we get into the studio and do our podcast.
Well, we'd like to thank you for your time and consideration dropping some very valuable gems on us about business, small business, the growth of business, and all of those things. Thank you to our listeners, viewers, supporters, our donators, followers, subscribers, all of the above.
You can find the podcast at americangypsy.com. We have all the episode audio, videos, guest information, links to our merch at luamlee.com. We have consistent self-improvement merch, t-shirts, and pillows, a lot of different things at luamlee.com. And we have music.
And yeah, we have music under Classic Carpenter, KLACCIKCARPENTA. That's on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Tidal, all major platforms. And before we close all the way out, Chris, your tags one more time.
Yeah, so my Instagram and TikTok are customerservice.freak. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Chris Lalomia. You can always ping me on email, chris@thetrustedtoolbox.com. And if you want to talk for 30 minutes about anything entrepreneurship related, I am happy to do it.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you again, Chris. Thank you to our listeners. Consistent self-improvement, everyone, and peace.